Welcome to this help video for Higher Admin IT. Today we're going to look at VLOOKUPs and HLOOKUPs. Using the lookup function is something that will be asked of you in every Higher Admin assignment. We're going to use it to look at data from different areas of the workbook and then insert it into the worksheet that you're working with. It's useful because it allows you to keep your worksheets tidy, have data stored somewhere else so that other people can't see it potentially. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of how this works. This worksheet is a great example of a time that using a VLOOKUP would be a really appropriate formula. As you can see on this first page, we have a list of student names, it has their student ID, and it has their address. And then the blank column that we have on the right hand side is to insert their marks. If we look down at the bottom in the mark sheet, you can see that the student IDs are linked to their marks. This means that when the assessor marks work, they can't see what student it belongs to, so it's totally anonymous. And that's really good practice. It means that you can't show any bias when you're marking. Once everything's been marked and the marks have been recorded, it will then be a function of the office staff to bring all that information together so that it can be shared with the students. So that's what we're going to do with this spreadsheet. So working in your student details, you click in the cell that you want the information to appear in. And I'm going to click the FX up at the top to insert the function. A list will appear of your most recently used functions. If the lookup isn't there, then click in that box to type in VLOOKUP. Oh, and it'll appear on the list for you to insert. We now have a dialog box with a number of options. So our very first box at the top is asking us for the lookup value. This is what it is that we are going to search for in the other worksheet. So in this case, we are going to search for the student ID. So we're going to click in the cell that we want, and then we're going to move down to the next cell, which is your table array. The table array is where are we finding this information from? Where are we looking it up? So obviously, we're going to have to move to the mark sheet. So I'll click in the mark sheet, and I'm going to highlight all of that information there. And remember, it's going to be the same information for every student. So we're going to use the F4 to make those cells absolute. You could also name the range on that other worksheet and just key in the range name there. The third column index number is looking for where in the mark sheet is the information we're looking for, and we want the second column because that is where the grades were stored. And then the final box is asking us, do we want to have an exact match or do we want to have an approximate match? In this case, because we want to assign a specific mark to a specific student, we are obviously going to take an exact match, in which case we type in false. I'll show you another example later where we would perhaps use true instead. Once you've done that, click OK and drag it down. It's now populated that column there. And we're going to pick one at random just to go and check that it's worked correctly. So if we look at Glenda, her number is S1097 and she got 98. And if I have a look in the mark sheet, S1097 got 98. We're now going to look at an example of a VLOOKUP where we're not doing an exact match and where we're going to use cut-off points through the data to assign a grade to a student. So, student names and their marks. And down the bottom here we have a worksheet with grade boundaries. You'll notice that this one's coloured green and this one's coloured red, and we'll explain the significance of that as well. So our cut-off points are on the left and our grade is on the right. So we're going to click in the box where we want to insert the information. And again, insert function. We've got VLOOKUP at the top this time, so we're going to click OK. Our lookup value is the mark awarded. And the next box asks us for our table array. So what this is asking us to do this time is we're going to look up the mark, and in here we're going to use this table array to help assign it a grade. Remember, of course, that we need to fix those cells. Column index number is 2 because the grades were on the right hand side. And this time the range lookup is not false. This time it's true because there's not necessarily going to be an exact match. It's looking for a grade within a boundary. So we'll put in true and we'll click OK. And I'll drag that down. And again, we can do a spot check. So mark of 61 should be a C. And you can see that a C starts at 60 here, so that's correct. Before I move on to look at HLOOKUPs, I just want to highlight one really important thing when you're doing a VLOOKUP. When we are doing a lookup, when we press FX and your little description at the bottom, it says the table must be sorted in an ascending order. So what that means is that if those grades are sorted in a descending order, like it is in this red table, then it's not going to work. And I'm just going to demonstrate what would happen if we tried to do that. So we'll press FX, we'll do our VLOOKUP. We're going to follow exactly the same steps. So we're looking at this. This time our table array is going to be this, obviously with F4. Our column index number is still 2, and this is still true. And you can see that it hasn't worked this time. So just a wee reminder, always check that your data is in an ascending order. The final bit that we want to look at is an HLOOKUP. And again, just to make the point about your data has to be sorted in ascending order, we have a green and a red. HLOOKUP works in a very, very similar way. We've clicked on our cell, FX. This time we're looking for an HLOOKUP in our list. So I'm looking up the mark. My table array this time is going to be those cells there, which again I left for. My row index number is going to be 2 because the grades appear in the second row that I have selected. And this is going to be true because it's not an exact match. Click OK and drag down. And again, easy to check, 91 an A, 85 was cut-off point for an A, 61 a C, 60 was a cut-off point. Hopefully that's a quick reminder that will help you when you're revising lookups. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please just ask.